Welcome to the Leon Block, y'all. Tonight, I don't have any particular topic. Whatever comes to the dome, if anybody steps up or joins in, and has anything to talk about, then I'll bounce off of that. But I don't know, today was an interesting day. Uh, wow, interesting article from the Washington Post. And then I'll get into what my day was like real quick. But why America has 8.4 million unemployed when there are 10 million job openings. That caught my attention. A mystery sits at the heart of the economic recovery. There are 10 million job openings, yet more than 8.4 million unemployed are still actively looking for work. The job market looks, in some ways, like a boom time situation. Business owners complain they can't find enough workers, pay is rising rapidly, and customers are greeted with "please be patient, we're short staffed" signs at many stores and restaurants. Welcome to September and the "I don't know" economy. But the nation remains in the midst of a deadly pandemic with COVID-19 hospitalizations back at their highest rates since January. The surge is weighing on the labor market again, with a mere 235,000 jobs added in August. There are still 5 million fewer jobs compared to before the pandemic, reflecting ongoing problems, including childcare, as some schools and daycares shut down again from outbreaks. From the White House to the local Waffle House, there's a struggle to understand what is going on and what's likely ahead. This weekend, the employment crisis will hit an inflection point as many of the unemployed lose $300 in federal weekly benefits, and millions of gig workers and self employed lose unemployment aid entirely. Some anticipate a surge in job seekers, though in 22 states that already phased out those benefits, workers didn't flood back to jobs. At heart, there's a massive reallocation underway in the economy that's triggering a great reassessment of work in America from both the employer and employee perspectives. Workers are shifting where they want to work and how. For some, this is a personal choice. The pandemic and all of the anxieties, lockdowns, and time at home have changed people. Some want to work remotely forever. Others want to spend more time with family. And others want a more flexible or meaningful career path. It's the "you only live once" mentality on steroids. Meanwhile, companies are beefing up automation and redoing entire supply chains and office setups. Remote work has created one of the biggest shifts ever in daily commutes. The reassessment is playing out in all facets of the labor market this year as people make very different decisions about work than they did pre-pandemic. Resignations are the highest on record, up to 13% over pre-pandemic levels. There are 4.9 million more people who aren't working or looking for work than there were before the pandemic. That's a surge in retirements. There's a surge in retirements with 3.6 million people retiring during the pandemic, or more than 2 million more than expected. And there's been a boost in entrepreneurship that has caused the biggest jump in years in the new business applications. The economy is going from a big shift overall, and that has ramifications. Uh, who that was Ben Bernanke, the Federal Reserve Chair from 2006 to 2014. He said, "We are reallocating where we want to work and how we want to work." People are trying to figure out what their best options are and where they want to be. It doesn't help that the abundance of job openings right now are not in the same occupations or same locations where people worked pre-pandemic. Booming business at dollar stores shows the widening gulf between haves and have-nots during pandemic, and I can't agree with that more. Part of me like gets annoyed going to the dollar store anymore and seeing bougie ass people that I know don't belong in the motherfucking dollar store with a full ass cart with all this shit and all these I'm poor, so I'm saying a whole bunch of poor people sitting there waiting in line. They got places to be and things to do. Maybe people got work to go to and they're running late. They just need a candy bar and it's only a fucking dollar. And here we are sitting behind this hootie tootie motherfucker that has a cart full of fucking shit because they're getting a bargain. For some people, Dollar Tree's a fucking lifeline. So I just want to say that. But there's a fundamental mismatch between what industries have the most job openings now and how unemployment people used to work in that industry pre-pandemic. For example, there are 1.8 million job openings in professional and business services and fewer than 925,000 people whose most recent job was in that sector. So leisure and hospitality, as well as retail and wholesale trade, also have more openings than prior workers, and many workers who lost jobs in those industries have indicated they don't want to return. I'm one of those people. I'm not returning to hospitality, I'm not returning to food, and I'm not returning to warehouse. I don't want to do any of that anymore. It's uncertain and it's unpredictable, it's unstable, it's unsecure, it's insecure, it's inhumane. And I don't think after everything I've went through in the past year and a half now with dealing with the pandemic, I think I've been traumatized enough to know what I don't have to tolerate as an American, as a human being, as a person. So I'm one of those people who are rethinking how I want to live my life in pertaining to work and what kind of job I think that I deserve and what I think the standard of a job should be. There's a similar mismatch in education and health services where there are 1 million job openings and only 1.1 million people whose last job was in that sector. I'm actually going to share this article because there's a bunch of cool graphs in it explaining the gaps with each. They talk about professional and business services, education and health services, construction, wholesale, retail, leisure, hospitality, manufacturing, transportation, financial activities, and each one of those, with the exception of construction, there's a gap. I find that quite interesting. But I'm not surprised, and they're expecting for even more people, once these federal benefits go, they're not expecting anyone else to flood back to just, applying for jobs. Go ahead and put this article in here. In recent months, healthcare workers and educators have quit their jobs at the highest rate on record, stretching back to 2002, Labor Department data show. This is typically the time of year wow. This is typically the time of year where we recruit for the upcoming school year, but we literally can't get enough candidates, and we're seeing tenured people leave, says Cindy Leinhoff, a 36-year veteran of the childcare industry who currently leads the National Child Care Association. If you get one good candidate, there are 10 others contacting that same person. It's a crisis. People can't work without childcare. Lenhoff has been helping a child care center in Northern Virginia recruit more staff. Their infant room remains closed because they don't have enough people, and one of their veteran workers was just poached by a nearby elementary school. As she spoke with the Washington Post, Lenhoff poured over the Indeed.com job portal. It showed more than 2,000 job posts in the Fairfax County, Virginia area for child care teaching assistants. Most pay 12 to 13 an hour, a bit less than many nearby fast food restaurants and retail stores. For the first time, average pay for supermarket and restaurant workers hit $15 an hour, actually it topped $15 an hour. Nationwide, most industries have more job openings than people with prior experience in that sector, Labor Department data show. That's a very different situation than after the Great Recession, when the number of unemployed far outstripped jobs available in every sector for years. So to find enough workers, companies need to train workers and entice people to switch careers, a process which generally takes longer, especially in fields that require special licenses. While companies say they are struggling to find workers, many unemployed say they are having trouble getting hired, especially if they haven't worked for a year. Forklift driver Brendan Harvey and his wife used to work in a warehouse outside Atlanta that closed during the pandemic and never reopened. Harvey, who is 33, searched for a job for months, looking online and driving around South Fulton. He submitted countless applications but rarely got calls back. I fear that employers aren't pretty hesitant to give you an opportunity right now if you haven't worked in a while, Harvey said over the summer when his search seemed especially frustrating. And the U.S. economy had a lackluster 230,000 jobs added in August, which was a disappointing month as virus surged. Harvey and his wife fell behind on rent. Their landlord wanted to evict them. They struggled to stay positive in front of their two kids, a toddler and 13-year-old. Harvey saw plenty of $10 and $12 an hour jobs all spring and summer, but it wouldn't be enough for his family to survive. He made 17 before the pandemic. I definitely wasn't going to work for 10 to 12 an hour. That wasn't going to do anything, Harvey said. After months of job hunting, in late August, he finally received a job offer for 21 an hour in a major retailer's warehouse. He expects to start September 4th. How the Delta variant stole Christmas. Empty shelves, long waits, and yes, higher prices. Companies across the economy are raising pay at rapid pace in an effort to entice more people back to work. It's helped, but the pandemic and reallocation pains are still significant barriers. Average pay for rank and file workers is up 2.8% in the past 5 months. Outside the pandemic, that's the fastest rate of increase since 1981. There has been especially fierce wage competition for lower paid positions, especially since former service sector workers say they won't return at any price due to long hours, grueling work, and increased exposure to the virus. Pay is up 8.8% for non managerial workers in the restaurant and hospitality sector and 6.1% for warehouse workers in the past 5 months. It appears to be helping lure some workers back. Of the 3.8 million jobs gained since March, almost half are in hospitality, though hiring in the sector stalled in August as the Delta variant surged. This article is actually pretty interesting. Um, Kind of ties in a couple of things that has been on my mind and a couple of things that I wanted to talk about that I had conversations with other people about today. Some Americans are being forced to shift careers whether they want to or not. The pandemic has lingered longer than anyone initially anticipated, and the ranks of long term unemployment have swelled. About 40% of the currently unemployed, 3.2 million, have been out of work for 6 months or longer. Years of research, especially after the Great Recession, show these people have a much harder time getting back to work. Hiring managers are skeptical that their skills are still fresh, and these workers' prior jobs and employers are often gone, forcing job seekers to rely on sending out resumes online without any personal connections. One of the most well known facts in labor economics is people unemployed for a short time get jobs really quickly. People unemployed for a long time have a harder time getting a job. Some of the long term unemployed have become so discouraged that they retired earlier than planned. With evictions expected to mount, access to rental aid remains uneven. Ann Farley of Hutchinson, Kansas, said she hadn't intended to retire early, but she nonetheless recently applied for Social Security at the age of 63 because she no longer had any unemployment benefits coming in. She has struggled to pay for the basics. She can't afford to repair her car so she can commute to a retail job. She worked for years at an embroidery business, helping to run the machines and manage orders, but she was laid off at the start of the pandemic. She had hoped to return this summer, but found the company had replaced her with a younger, cheaper worker. It's been pretty rough. I've missed credit card payments, and I'll probably have to do a pay agreement with the electric company. She also takes care of her two grandchildren. It feels like there's a million people applying for two positions around here. Economists, economists, point out that overall jobs are actually rebounding at a remarkable pace. Over 75% of the jobs lost during the pandemic are back. a much faster recovery than almost anyone anticipated a year ago. Private forecasters anticipate all the jobs lost could be back by mid to late 2022, a rebound of about 2 years compared to the 6+ years it took the labor market to recover from the Great Recession. But as Federal Reserve Chair Jerome H. Powell put it recently, it's been a vigorous but uneven recovery. Job losses remain steepest for Black and Hispanic women, as well as Americans without college degrees. The uneven recovery is evident in how different states are faring. In some areas of the country, the labor market is booming. All the slack has vanished in Idaho and Utah, where employment recovered months ago and unemployment rates were nearing their all-time lows at 2.6 and 3% respectively. But other states are still reeling. Hawaii is still missing 12% of its jobs. New York is still missing 9%, and Nevada and Alaska are more than 7% behind as tourism-dependent economies struggle amid fast-spreading COVID-19 variants. Similarly, urban downtowns in San Francisco and DC have struggled to rebound as more office workers remain at home. The shops and restaurants that supported these office workers aren't coming back yet, especially as bellwether employers such as Google, Amazon, Apple, and Facebook push back openings to January. And of course, in DC, you have the Washington Post, Jeff Bezos founder. Jeff Bezos owns the Washington Post. Meanwhile, the most urgent need for workers is often in suburban areas where housing costs have skyrocketed, making it difficult for low wage workers to live there. As the recovery proceeds, the holes in the labor force have shifted. Half of all jobs are still missing in high contact industries such as buffets and movie theaters, but other industries that were hit harder in the early days of the crisis, such as RV dealers, car washes, breweries, and appliance stores, have staged a full comeback, buoyed by record consumer spending on goods. Some lucky industries, such as delivery services, mortgage lenders, and breakfast cereal manufacturers seem to have sailed through the entire crisis without shredding any jobs. They now have 10 or even 20% more employees than they did in February of 2020. The White House and many business leaders hope a combination of rising vaccination rates, reduced unemployment benefits, and more time will lead more unemployed Americans to find new careers and to be excited about them. So Sarah Henry, who's 39 and from the San Francisco Bay Area, lost her corporate job at Bloomingdale's in June of 2020 and struggled to find any job openings in her area of expertise, which was international marketing and tourism. Initially, she was shocked to find herself unemployed for the first time in her career. But after her daughter was born, she decided she wanted a more flexible career. She's about to take the real estate exam in California, and if it all goes well, she will start as a realtor early next year working with her brother. So that just caught my attention because there was an article, or not an article, but I was watching PBS NewsHour earlier, and they were kind of talking about the same thing and how people like expected it to be a faster rebound than what it's been. But people are forgetting, we've got this Delta John out there, and I get that, but people also have a lot of other things that they're dealing with too. It's not just COVID, you know. And everyone has different varying reasons for why they're hesitant or why they're not working at the moment. why they can't. As the one individual outside of Atlanta in the article was saying, he has kids, he has a family, and $10 an hour is not going to cut it. $12 an hour is not going to cut it when he was making 17. So gratefully he did find a job making 21 an hour. So I was watching, I was talking to a couple of different friends today, hanging out, and these are a lot of my different friends where we could talk about the economy, we could talk about the system, we could talk about politics, we could talk about capitalism, we could talk about socialism, we could talk about communism, and different countries and the different cultures, the different things that are going on in America, how we're being laughed at, and kind of talked about housing, and that really struck a thing with me because when it comes to housing, it's partially a hot topic right now, but I think for the wrong reasons. Like, why aren't landlords and tenants uniting against the system? Why are we always getting pinned against each other when we're essentially in the same predicament? Landlords are getting shut out of having properties as well. Their properties are getting bought up and they're getting forced to sell properties to investors who are just swallowing things up, and they don't care about human beings. They don't care about people. They just want their investments. They just want their money. Landlords are selling their souls. And really, it starts with the tenants. The tenants are the ones with the money that pay everything. So it's just backwards to me that we're not uniting. We should be coming together. And I had a chat with a friend of mine, kind of put me on to a revolutionary that I guess is a bit of a hot debate. So I'm gonna do some research on that, and I think I might do an episode on it and have him join in because the way that he described it was pretty cool, and there was some imagery that he has that I think is really cool and would be dope to like explain from his perspective how he views this revolutionary and why he thinks that they're underrated and why the black community in particular should take more interest in this and not see it at like what it appears to be, because it can be something completely different. um yeah. So coming up soon, I believe it's, excuse me, the 19th of September, I did a episode like a month or so ago about a sound journey, right? And it was fucking amazing. I I really enjoyed it. I really felt a lot better afterward. In the sense of like I felt cleaner. I felt like I could hear more. I don't know, that sounds weird, but I felt like I could hear better. Like, not hear better, but everything just seemed more crisper and colorful. Um, and I felt definitely more relaxed. For one, I just love being outdoors, especially at the time of year it was. It was just, I don't know, it was just beautiful. But I'm really looking forward to going on, excuse me, this one, just Sound Journey, September 19th. Definitely check it out if you're interested. Definitely go on nixvillage.com, check out her uh, merchandise, check out her store. She actually has a physical location in Coatesville, Pennsylvania as well. You could check that out too. But she also does things like tarot as well. But the sound journey was just fucking amazing. And as a person of color, as a black man, I really felt, for me, taking the journey of self care, self investment, and self love is important. We need to know thyself in entirety. And I know myself. I need some inspiration for certain things, um, and better trajectory for things. There are things I know I need to work on, some shadow work I need to work on. Um, for other people, it can be other things and different things. But for people of color, we definitely all people, but definitely for Black people, we definitely have, and people of color, a lot of baggage and trauma. And it is commendable to let yourself be vulnerable, to open yourself up and figure out how to do something about that. It's our duty. It is our right to do that if you see fit, and you have every right to. You deserve to. I've been doing therapy for like going on a year or so now. Not consistently. For now, it's going on a year that I've been doing it consistently, but definitely longer than that. And it's helped a lot. And why it's helped is because I have another person of color that is my therapist. I don't think I could have a white therapist. I don't think I could have, I really don't think I could have a white therapist. Um, they don't understand the intricacies of what it means to be a black man in America. And I've had white doctors that just make me want to punch them in the face. I couldn't deal with having a white therapist. The one that I have now, she's fucking awesome. And I can be myself. She just gets me. I don't have to fully explain certain things. She gets it. A white therapist, I might have to explain certain things, and I shouldn't have to, you know? So it's important to have a therapist that you can identify with, a doctor that you can identify with. Honestly, I forget where I was going with that. There was a point to that, but whatever. Anywho, so there is also a big event that I've been talking about too, which there is another episode coming about it very soon. I've been touching on it here and there. Christiana Resistance, which took place September 11th, 1851 in Christiana. And it was, uh, I'm cliff noting here because it's a deep story, but roughly 40 black men and women took to the streets to kill a white slave owner who tried to capture his quote unquote property. They were tried for treason and got off thanks to Thaddeus Stevens. So every so often there is a huge anniversary celebration, but every year for September 11th there is a commemoration event of sorts that is done, and there's always some kind of food, prizes, reenactors come. You get to also take the tour of the history at Zerkers Hotel, where the Historical Society and the museum is. So it really is a great time. Come on out and enjoy it. Take in the history and the beauty of Christiana. Uh, but there's actually a lot to see there. There's a lot of rich history there. There's also this guy. If you go on ourwalktofreedom.com, it'll give you details a little bit on his backstory. But he will be walking from Baltimore County, which has significance to the story of Christianity resistance as well, to Christianity PA, and will arrive on September 11th for the 170th anniversary. So that's even more reason to come join. Frederick Douglass, John Wilkes Booth, they play a part in this story. It'd be cool to see you there. Interesting. Prince's brother, one of his remaining family heirs, dies. Wow. I ain't doing nothing but sitting here just looking through articles, reading what the mainstream media is saying. Some of the articles I see are just ridiculous. Hmm. Minnesota school boards are at the breaking point. Let me look into this. Wow. Of course, just like any other place in America, there's a huge debate over the masks. And at this point, I don't care what side. I mean, I do care what side of the debate you're on, but I don't care what side of the debate you're on in the simple fact that they're using this to conquer and divide and just further divide us. I feel like we're more divided on this issue than we were this time last year. Way more divided. And it hurts. I don't know what to do about this, and I'm fed up of hearing about it. But then again, I'm trying to do my part at the same time, and just all of this is very stressful. It is. And so I honestly largely try and keep my mouth shut about it. But ugh, you can't avoid that topic forever, you know?